It turned out that, a moment ago, Yuan Con was reminiscing about the days when the righteous immortal was still by his side. Back then, it was always the righteous immortal who stepped up for him in situations like this. So, at that moment, he couldn't help but sigh in his heart. If only the righteous immortal were still by my side. You'd definitely know how to deal with this mess. Yet, right then, Yuan Con suddenly had a flash of inspiration. Wait, why am I foolishly chasing after Jang Yi non-stop? Why not just go after someone he cares about instead? Having figured it out, he immediately gave up on Jang Yi and flew off into the distance. His new target? Uncle Yu and the others. Only by capturing them could he force Jang Yi to reveal a weakness. But when Jang Yi saw Yuan Con's actions, a disdainful smile curled at the corner of his lips. This foolish girl finally got a bit smarter. But it's still a pity because I had already anticipated your move. In that instant, Yuan Con realized he had been tricked. He was already caught in Jang Yi's trap. No matter how hard he searched, he couldn't find any trace of Uncle Yu and the others. Understanding this, Yuan Con's anger surged. He hadn't expected Jang Yi to be this cunning, calculating his every move from the very beginning. But this sudden turn of events scared the wits out of Xiao Honglian and his companions because Yuan Con had already appeared right above their heads. Jang Yi, on the other hand, looked completely nonchalant, as if to say, go ahead, kill them if you want. I'm not going to risk my life to save them. At this point, the calm expression on Yuan Con's face had disappeared. It's not that he didn't want to kill this group below him. But doing so would expose his back to Jang Yi, giving Jang Yi the perfect opportunity to strike. So, after weighing his options, he decided not to act rashly. Instead, he took a deep breath to compose himself. And that brief moment of thought led him to a solution. In the next second, flames burst forth from Yuan Con's body, filling the air around him. The originally cold weather suddenly turned unbearably hot. Jang Yi, clearly bewildered, had no idea what trick Yuan Con was up to. Did I just make her so mad that she lost her senses? Then, in the blink of an eye, the flames transformed into massive fiery dragons. Charging towards Jang Yi, he braced himself defensively, thinking that these flaming dragons were no different from ordinary attacks. To him, they didn't pose much of a threat. However, just as the fire dragons were about to strike, they suddenly dispersed right in front of Jang Yi, diving straight into the snow beneath them. This scene left Jang Yi even more confused. But he soon understood why Yuan Con had done this. The fire and snow created a massive amount of steam, which acted like a smokescreen, severely obstructing Jang Yi's vision. This unexpected change forced Jang Yi to become more vigilant. Though his sight was blocked, he could still feel the intense heat all around him, making him hesitant to act rashly. But suddenly, the sound of rushing water filled Jang Yi's ears. By the time he reacted, it was already too late. Yuan Con had summoned a torrent of icy rivers that surged from all directions towards Jang Yi. Even above him, the river waters flowed, trapping Jang Yi in the center. Jang Yi's heart raced with unease. The area the river covered was enormous. Even if he used spatial teleportation, there was no way to escape its reach. At that moment, Jang Yi wanted to laugh. Well, look at that, she's gotten clever, using such a scheme against me. But after calming himself, Jang Yi relaxed. He knew Yuan Con was trying to cut off his mobility, trapping him like a caged beast within the icy waters. Once everything was in place, Yuan Con exhaled deeply, and a miraculous scene unfolded. The surging rivers instantly began to freeze over. In the blink of an eye, a massive, square-shaped ice block, spanning thousands of meters, appeared before everyone. Yuan Con's eyes revealed a trace of fatigue. After all, this attack was on a massive scale. Even for someone as powerful as an epsilon, maintaining it for long would be exhausting. Yet, he smiled triumphantly. Jang Yi, you're always so good at dodging. But with such a large-scale attack, I refuse to believe you can escape this time. Yuan Con was still mocking Jang Yi for being overconfident. But as soon as his words fell, a spatial rift appeared above the massive weapon. Moments later, Jang Yi emerged from the rift, completely unharmed. Yuan Con was stunned. He shouted in disbelief. Impossible. He knew just how powerful his attack was earlier. Yet Jang Yi didn't have a scratch on him. Meanwhile, Jang Yi took a long, deep breath after coming out, then looked at Yuan Con with a playful expression. Your combined attack was pretty decent. It's a pity, though, it's useless against me. Hearing this, Yuan Con's composure shattered. Jang Yi, I refuse to believe I can't kill you, he roared. He then gathered a small, radiant golden orb in his hand. Although the orb was small, the pressure it emitted was immense and terrifying. But right at that moment, something unexpected happened. A sudden bout of dizziness washed over Yuan Con, momentarily blurring his vision. The sensation only lasted for a brief moment. He merely rubbed his temples, and the dizziness faded away, so he didn't think much of it. However, Jang Yi, being the sly fox he was, caught this subtle change in Yuan Con. He grew even bolder, beckoning at Yuan Con with a finger. Come on, you demoness. If you can't kill me today, I'll make sure everyone knows about your 1,000 kills tomorrow. Oh, and by the way, that wound on Jang Yixian's chest? I'm the one who gave it to him. Yuan Con's expression twisted further with every taunt Jang Yi threw at him. Good, very good. If you want to die so badly, then I'll grant your wish today, she snarled. With that, Yuan Con launched another attack at Jang Yi, swearing to send him to the grave along with Jang Yixian. Yet, Jang Yi remained unfazed, almost indifferent. After all, Yuan Con's attacks couldn't even touch him, so he only became more and more provocative. As time passed, Yuan Con's physical condition continued to worsen, and the signs of his discomfort became more and more obvious. It was then that Yuan Con suddenly realized something. He immediately stopped his assault. His expression twisted with pain as he demanded, Jang Yi, what the hell did you do to me? But Jang Yi didn't respond. Instead, he mocked Yuan Con even further. He wanted to drive Yuan Con step by step into the abyss. Then, with a serious look, Jang Yi began spouting nonsense. Looks like you still can't fully control the power within you. But I can understand. After all, your abilities were stolen. Maybe the souls of those you killed transferred to you as well. And that's why you're in pain. Jang Yi's words struck a nerve deep within Yuan Con. After all, he had committed numerous atrocities in the dark to gain power. So, his words left a seed of unease in Yuan Con's heart. But when people are scared, they tend to discard reason. As a result, Yuan Con intensified his attacks on Jang Yi, trying to force himself not to think about those terrifying possibilities. Yet, Jang Yi was like an annoying fly that wouldn't go away. No matter what kind of power Yuan Con unleashed, Jang Yi would dodge it instantly. And as soon as Yuan Con stopped, Jang Yi would counter with his own divine power. At this moment, Jang Yi was truly acting like a relentless parasite, annoying Yuan Con without end. He was stalling for time, not just to exhaust Yuan Con, but to let the power of his second strategy, Toxin of Abilities, slowly take effect. Yuan Con's powers had flaws. As the host of these abilities, Yuan Con would naturally experience their side effects. Jang Yi's goal was simple, to wear him down until he collapsed. He continued to verbally assault Yuan Con, even bringing up the past of Yuan Con's parents. It was at this point that Yuan Con finally understood what Jang Yi meant by the 1,000 kills. The long-buried memories from his past were thoroughly awakened by Jang Yi's words. Countless hands appeared in his mind. He struggled to break free. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't escape those hands squeezing and molding his thoughts. In desperation, he screamed for Jang Yixian to save him. But in the next second, he saw Jang Yixian pinned beneath the foot of a burly man. He could only watch as those countless figures trampled over him, tearing at his pride and sanity. That brief moment of recalling those memories made Yuan Con's head feel like it was about to explode. He let out a blood-curdling scream of despair. Jang Yi used his sharp tongue to drive Yuan Con to madness. Unexpectedly, that very moment further aggravated the injuries within her. Her vision grew increasingly blurred, and at times, she couldn't even see Jang Yi's face clearly, filling her with fear. She then angrily demanded, Jang Yi, what did you do to me? Hearing this, Jang Yi laughed with delight. He knew that Yuan Con was suffering from the backlash of Captain Bian's ability. But as a cunning trickster, why would he ever reveal the truth to her? Thus, Jang Yi just stood there, staring silently, neither speaking nor moving. At this moment, Yuan Con glared at Jang Yi with pure malice. If looks could kill, Jang Yi would have been torn to shreds 1,000 times over. She was certain that her current condition was all Jang Yi's doing. Thinking of this, Yuan Con's body began to emit a radiant golden light. This was another one of her abilities, Blessing. With it, she could heal any injury, as long as she was willing to pay the price. Even if a person were on the brink of death, as long as they still had a breath, she could bring them back to life. But as soon as the power of Blessing began to take effect, she felt something was off. The discomfort in her body not only didn't fade, but grew stronger the more she channeled her power, causing the golden light to dissipate into the air. Seeing this, Jang Yi didn't hesitate to strike. He wasn't the kind of person to show pity. He lived by the motto, if they're sick, take their life. If he didn't seize such a golden opportunity, he wouldn't be Jang Yi. Even though Yuan Con was suffering from pain, her instincts kicked in, allowing her to summon annihilation and block Jang Yi's assault. However, her condition continued to worsen. Xiao Honglian and Wei Deng, watching from the sidelines, were bewildered by the sudden change. They hadn't seen Jang Yi do anything unusual. Yet Yuan Konye was reacting as if she had been poisoned. They, too, wanted to know exactly what Jang Yi had done. Meanwhile, the investigation team, seeing Yuan Konye's severe coughing, immediately realized something. It's Captain Bian's abilities backlash. Meng Xiyu, who had been observing closely, fell into deep thought. It appears he didn't just absorb the positive effects of Captain's power. He must have also taken on the negative side effects as well. Is this a coincidence, or did Jang Yi plan it all along? He glanced over at Bai Li Chongqing and the others. The shock and disbelief in their eyes were evident. Could it be a coincidence? It doesn't seem like it at all. Lying in his sleeping bag, Invincible clenched his teeth in anger. That damned bastard Jang Yi. He actually dared to scheme against us. It's clear that the captain's death is tied to him. Bai Li Chongqing, however, remained surprisingly calm. To be honest, Jang Yi didn't do anything wrong. Back then, given the circumstances, it was the only way to ensure our survival. Otherwise, we would have all died there. I even believe that the captain knew Jang Yi was using him. Bai Li Chongqing then stared intently at Jang Yi for a full 2.5 minutes. This guy, to have set up such a grand scheme, turning us all into pieces on his chessboard. He's truly impressive. Invincible, unable to hold back his rage, burst out, "Impressive my ass, I'm going to kill him." But in his weakened state, the outburst nearly sent him into a fit. Meng Xiyu quickly comforted him. All right, calm down. Focus on recovering first. This has nothing to do with us for now. If you want revenge, get your health back first. Despite their words, everyone's spirits lifted slightly because they all understood one thing. Their only chance of survival was if Jang Yi defeated Yuan Konye. As for Jang Yi, he didn't increase the frequency of his attacks against Yuan Konye. Instead, he continued to fight while replenishing his own power. Jang Yi understood better than anyone that if Yuan Konye were truly defeated, the people lurking in the shadows wouldn't hesitate to seize such a delicious prize. Thus, he had to maintain his peak condition at all times. After all, this woman before him was a genuine epsilon. Her essence was a treasure that could tempt anyone to take risks. Therefore, Jang Yi didn't want to judge these greedy souls with a gentleman's heart. He would use his strength to make it clear. Yuan Konye's essence is already reserved by me. Jang Yi. Moments before this happened, Jang Yi had retrieved the origin pistol from his spatial pocket. Against ordinary people, it was no different from a regular gun. But when dealing with mutants, it was a completely different story. So, the moment Jang Yi pulled the trigger, Yuan Konye immediately noticed the origin bullet. This bullet was innately effective against ability users, and Jang Yi had even infused it with his own powers, making it even more dangerous. Yuan Konye dared not let her guard down. This put her in a tough spot. If she didn't use her abilities to counter Jang Yi's attack, she would be killed instantly. But if she did use her powers, it would worsen the backlash inside her. She was caught in a vicious cycle. Jang Yi could see the worry in her eyes. He mocked her as he attacked. Why are you only defending? Why not strike back? Are you going to surrender? Well, that's fine too. If you destroy your own abilities right in front of me, I might just spare your life. Yuan Konye's response was a barrage of ice spikes. Even though her vision was impaired, she still had hundreds of abilities at her disposal, allowing her to sense her surroundings without using her eyes. However, none of these attacks worked against Jang Yi. In fact, sometimes they even worked to his advantage, because every attack Yuan Konye launched would be absorbed by the dimensional gate and then reflected back at her. At this point, Yuan Konye had run out of options to deal with Jang Yi. But she wasn't willing to give up. She had spent so much time and effort planning this. How could it end with Jang Yi gaining the upper hand? She desperately wanted to know the answer from Jang Yi's own lips. Jang Yi responded with a faint smile. Want to know the answer? Then go ask the King of Hell. With that, he fired a powerful origin bullet infused with space-time energy straight at Yuan Konye. This time, Jang Yi wasn't holding back. It was his strongest shot yet. Yuan Konye didn't dare underestimate it. She used her psychic energy to form a thick shield, blocking Jang Yi's attack with ease. But right afterward, she felt as if countless ants were gnawing at her brain, causing intense, unbearable pain. At this moment, Yuan Konye knew she couldn't afford to drag this out with Jang Yi any longer. Fighting through the excruciating pain, she turned and fled. Her sudden retreat took everyone by surprise, except Jang Yi. He wasn't surprised at all. He had already predicted every move Yuan Konye would make. Running away? No matter what, you're going to die by my hand today. Even if Jesus himself came, he couldn't save you. That's how it's going to be. Jang Yi shouted, sipping on a can of cola as he leisurely chased after Yuan Konye. But to prevent her from launching a surprise counterattack, he maintained a steady distance. Not too far, not too close. After all, a dying camel is still bigger than a horse. Until the very last moment, Jang Yi wouldn't take any unnecessary risks. Meanwhile, as Yuan Konye retreated, the onlookers grew excited. Xiao Hanlian couldn't help but exclaim, "The witch is actually running away. Does this mean Jang Yi has won the battle?" Baili Chongqing, however, kept his gaze fixed on the two figures in the sky. His brows furrowed. "That's a severely wounded Epsilon fleeing. If I could get my hands on her essence, I might be able to ascend to her level." And he wasn't the only one thinking this way. Every single person present harbored the same thought. In a world like this, only by ensuring one's own power can one survive longer. Wei Dingai looked down at his severed arm and knew that after this battle, his strength would diminish significantly, making it impossible to maintain his position. Rather than face that, he decided to take a gamble now. Resolving himself, his eyes began to glow a deep blue, like a storm brewing in his pupils. Before anyone could react, he transformed into a sharp ice spear and shot towards the path Yuan Konye was fleeing along. When Yuan Konye saw Wei Dingai coming, she almost wanted to laugh. "Even you, a nobody, dare to take advantage of me?" The rage within her flared up instantly. With a casual flick of her wrist, she punched toward the incoming ice spear. This seemingly gentle punch made Wei Dingai feel as though he had crashed into an iron wall. An invisible force surged through his entire body, and with a deafening boom, the ice spear shattered into countless icy fragments. Even the frost armor covering his body shattered like glass. And just like that, the once proud Wei Dingai was destroyed in a single blow. And this was a severely injured Yuan Konye. One can only imagine just how terrifying her true power is. Under the shocked gazes of everyone, a falling icicle ended Wei Dingai's life for good. This scene sent chills down the spines of all the bystanders. As for Jang Yi, he continued his unhurried pursuit. But this time, he glanced back at the crowd hiding in the distance and casually said, "Don't hold back, leaders. It's true that Yuan Konye is seriously injured. If you also want her essence, feel free to make your move." Jang Yi and Yuan Konye were locked in a fierce final chase, a game of cat and mouse. Yuan ran, Zhang pursued, and if Zhang caught him, there'd be no mercy. The investigation team didn't bother to follow Jang Yi in his pursuit of Yuan Konye. Baili Chongqing and the others knew all too well that Jang Yi would eventually come out on top. Baili Chongqing thought back to the time when they had invited Jang Yi to join their team. But now, if Jang Yi were to return, there'd be no doubt, he'd be the leader without question. Beside him, Kong bowed his head in resignation, knowing he could have lasted longer. Baili Chongqing tried to reassure him. "It was out of our hands back then. Jang Yi was always a step ahead of us. We all fell into his trap." Meanwhile, Yuan Konye was still running for his life. Jang Yi, calmly eating energy-restoring food, continued his relentless pursuit, using his portal ability to close the gap. He was curious to see how long Yuan could keep this up. Exhausted from the chase, Yuan Konye eventually had to land, intending to catch his breath. But just as he did, a bullet sliced through the air, narrowly missing him. Jang Yi wasn't giving him a moment's rest. Every time Yuan tried to stop, Zhang would strike, using his origin bullets to ensure Yuan had no chance to recover. Yuan Konye, running on pure desperation, activated his powers and retaliated, sending an attack towards Jang Yi. But Zhang, with his portal ability, effortlessly dodged it. Yuan clenched his jaw in frustration. Jang Yi was like an unstoppable force, clinging to him no matter what. With no other choice, Yuan ran again. Jang Yi, intent on obtaining the core of Xilong from Yuan, followed at a steady pace. It was like a game of endurance now. He knew Yuan wouldn't last forever. By the time the next morning dawned, Yuan Konye stumbled into an underground supermarket, deeply buried beneath the earth. Driven by pure survival instincts, he scoured the place, hoping to find food to regain his strength. His hands shook as he reached for a pile of pastries. But before he could take a bite, boom! A missile whistled through the air and exploded, obliterating the food into dust. Devastated, Yuan Konye fled once more. He had been running from Jang Yi for a full day and night, no food, no water, no rest. As he stumbled away, he glanced back, only to see Jang Yi standing on a nearby hill, holding an RPG launcher, the very weapon that had destroyed his only chance at survival. Furious, Yuan Konye launched an attack with the last of his strength. Jang Yi simply opened a portal and absorbed the attack with ease. "Still fighting, Yuan Konye?" Jang Yi's voice was calm, mocking. "Your followers are all dead. So many lives lost because of you. Don't you feel any guilt? You're the real villain here." Seeing that his attack was futile, Yuan Konye turned to run again. Jang Yi let out a small chuckle, spreading his hands. "He really knows how to run. Huh? Alright then, let's end this with one final strike."